Hello, everyone. Okay, well, I'd like to talk about stories, and everybody really loves stories. My boy loved stories before he could dribble straight. He didn't know what was going on, but every night I felt compelled to tell him stories, and we all do. It feels like it's even more important than teeth. Saying like isn't enough, though. It doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of the ubiquity of stories. And since women discovered fire, and they did, our complex audio gift to entertain has been used. But it also feels like it's so much more than entertainment. It doesn't tell enough. I mean, burning ants with a magnifying glass entertained me for many, many years. But when adulthood came, it kind of lost its appeal. No matter how sophisticated our technology becomes, stories seem to become part of it. And yes, social cohesion is part of that, but I believe that story appreciation is hardwired into our brain. But actually all brains, it's just that animals don't have stories or metaphors or concepts, and so they have other methods which we'll come into. But brains are there for one thing, and that's to move about effectively, because our planet-rulingly massive brains are really just there to get a lady thing and a man thing in the same place efficiently. It's that simple. You know, if you live longer, ace, but the same place at the same time as sweet music and the next generation. And I mean, if you're a very, very simple life form, and I can speak with some personal experience on that, you kind of float around the primordial gloop until you bump into the organism of your dreams before you become lunch. But even if you move modestly, being able to decide which way to go is really, really important. And that's got an evolutionary arms race started that has resulted in this ridiculously huge, overpowered noggin of ours, which is risky business in evolutionary terms. I mean, that's a huge head. So what I think we're looking at is a navigation device with loads and loads of extra RAM. And I mean, billions of years of evolution, and they got us right here, right now, are really developing a very sophisticated sat-nav. Now, sat-navs are ace. They're much better than maps. And why? Because they can shift with shifting terrain. So you can transfer the latest information, download new points of interest, traffic averages, where the fuzz are, and it changes an exchange of information from private to social, which is really important to us. But it's not just important to us, okay? So pigeons are really good navigators. It's what made them famous. But they don't exchange information except for us showing each other where to go. Bees dance. They use their stories and dance. So I'm going to tell you how to get from my house to my pub, right? You come out of my drive, you turn left, you go past the grip bin. If you see a bald man with a beard washing his car, don't talk to him, he's boring. You go to the main road, you turn right, watch for lorries, they're really dangerous. So I'm giving you some information that you can follow and remember, and it will help your approval. Did anybody follow Lost? I gave 8 years of my life to this, right? It was ridiculous. And there was some outcry of that because it didn't follow a narrative route, okay? So going back to my example of directions, if I'd said, you see the bald man, but before that you turn left, it wouldn't have made any sense. It's cognitively more difficult, and Hollywood have hit on this. So if you think that all films are the same, that's because they are, because they all use a very efficient false summits, bends, and switches that marry familiarity and exploration perfectly. The Greeks were onto this as well. So they had this Loki system, or memory palaces, that allowed you to remember everything, and it really works by using an imaginary journey with graphic reminders, like remembering a way home. Now, if we think about the oldest stories, and one of them is Homer's Odyssey, with 1000 BC, which was just when the Greeks were reading and writing. But he didn't make it up. He was transcribing oral traditions, and that really got me to thinking. How does a seafaring culture navigate the Mediterranean Sea when it can't read or write? Well, orally. And how do you remember 970,000 square miles of sea? Well, the rhythm of a poem would help, probably an epic one. And if you read a section of Homer's Odyssey, and I mean, I looked at the sirens, it's all there. Cardinal points, topographic information, descriptions, tidal times. And why the sirens? Why in that story? Well, don't go too close to this part of the land. It's pretty basic navigation stuff. So that's it, really. Like stories, our stories, we like them because they use all the extra power of our brains, but they use the same fundamental pathways as a really, really basic instinct, a machine code for our brain that totally fits in the head and feels nice and feels easy. But now we're much more than about traversing geography, we're about traversing morals, because we can project forwards, backwards, left and right. So when Jesus told us to do the right thing, he made up a story which I'm sure everybody can recognize and remember from that one picture. Now, I'm not a neuropsychologist, and I've guessed at all this, and I wouldn't even know where to start with gathering some empirical knowledge. But I know that MRI scanning is useful, and I would bet a lot of money that if you scanned somebody when they were reading a story and when they were receiving instructions, it would be very, very similar indeed.